legislation on the CHIPS Act. Congressman, I want to get to that in a moment, but we ended the last segment on the COVID-19 relief package, $1.9 trillion signed into law last March 2021. And that was the beginning of inflation getting stoked. You are now encouraging Biden to declare a climate emergency. Congressman, what would this do? Is now the right time to spend more money and raise taxes on people? The average electric vehicle costs $63,000. The median household income is $67,500, Congressman.
Maria, just to be factual on inflation, there was $3 trillion of spending under President Trump. And yes, there was spending under Joe Biden, but it is unfair to say that it's just the spending under Biden that somehow caused the inflation and not under Trump. They were both parties that were committed to helping people rescue them from COVID. But
Congressman, I'm just looking, just to be clear, Congressman, I'm looking specifically at the numbers. And when we look at the inflation timeline, which was the handover from President Trump to President Biden, this was in January of 2021, the consumer price index was at 1.4%. So when you say, there was spending under Trump, yes, that's right. But when you look at actual inflation, inflation was at 1.4%. Then it was 2.6% in March of 2021. Then the president signed in the COVID relief law. By the time we got to July of 2021, inflation was at 5.5%. Then the Democrats led the infrastructure package. That was signed into law November 21, and inflation was up to 6.8%. By March of 2022, right after the invasion by Russia, inflation was at 7.9%. And today, we are at 8.6%. From the last meeting, above 9%, rather, for the last reading in June, 9.1% is the last reading. So we're up to 9.1%, Congressman, with all of this spending.
But, Maria, correlation and causation are different. I mean, you can't say that Trump sending stimulus checks in December of 2020 was not inflationary and somehow Biden doing it in March was inflationary. What happened is we got out of COVID because of vaccines developed by President Trump and President Biden distributing them, and that increased demand, and the supply was constrained, and the Fed policy was wrong. But I agree with you that inflation is a major problem. The way to address it is to have more industrialization in America, to build more things in America, not to be relying overseas. And the climate emergency, look, if there were ever a time to go to the American people and say, we don't want petrostates like Russia to have power. We don't want our president to have to go to beg to Saudi Arabia for oil. We don't want to be going dependent on Iran or Venezuela. The way to do that is to have a moonshot on renewable energy and to make that stuff in America, not China. That's what a climate emergency would do. It would say, because of this war, let's have a long-term energy independence strategy and make the solar, the wind, the batteries here.
Oh, I think it is an emergency, but it's an emergency.